So the last couple of times, what have we been talking about? Last time we talked about what does it take, the actual activity that you need to put in. Before that, we talked about your pipeline and make sure that you're filling it up and managing it. We're going to kind of take both of those things and combine them into one topic today, talking about the leads life cycle. And regardless of your CRM, luckily we have Boomtown, so we're all familiar with this. But for anybody else, ideally their CRM has some way of categorizing where people are in the process, right? So you kind of understand their timeline just by looking at their category. So let's see, just to revisit these. So our lead categories from Boomtown, what are they and what do they mean? Miriam and Christian, who are now in the same place. Whoa, that was crazy. You should have gone through this in your training, right? So we've got a handful of categories, and it's really important to make sure you know what they mean, because this is where your pipeline rests, right? You've got the concept of a pipeline and these people that you can maybe think of as an airport strip where they're lining up to take off, right? But you have to know who is where and how that relates to their timeline. So let's just start at the top and kind of walk through these. And if you have any questions, let me know what you think about it. But, just starting it new, leads come into your system new right away, right? What is the goal? Contact them as soon as possible, 5 minutes or less. Speed to lead, hugely important. Show them that you're paying attention and you're there and you're ready to provide value immediately. Now, we have an automated text that goes out as soon as they register that just says, hey, I'm here and I recognize that you're on the website and I'm going to be in contact soon, right? So to that degree, it's even more important that you call soon, because if that goes out and then you wait 24 hours to call, they're going to be like, okay, certainly that text didn't really mean anything, right? So super important that you do that. Then what's the next step? It can go one of two ways. It's like a road diverged in the wood, right? You've got new, and then you've got two paths. One is going to be qualify. Qualify meaning we tried to reach out to them, but we didn't make contact, right? And the other direction is going to be, we did make contact. We were able to have somewhat of a conversation about their plan and their timeline, and we know which category to put them in because we're on the road now, right? So just to kind of break these down, with your qualifies, these are people that you reach out to right after they register. You're looking at what they've looked at, so you can reference that in the call, and you call and you don't get them. So you're going to leave a voicemail, right? And then you're going to change their category in Boomtown. You're going to set the appropriate drip, right? Based on if we think the number is a home number, based on if it looks like the email might not be good. Pick the right qualified drip, start it, and then you're going to set the alert, right? And you can do one of two ways. You can just hit system alert, which is going to base it on properties that they were looking at. So it's going to be similar price range, locations, bed and baths, whatever. And what you want to go in there to customize it is the subject, homes for lead name from your name, just so they have that recognition right there in the subject line of their email. They'll also see all your stuff in the actual emails. But again, we're trying to build brand recognition and your name recognition, right? And set it to instant. Deliver it instantly. We're trying to get a response from these people, so we're going to set it to instant. Now, if you look and the results are 200 matches, right? I wouldn't set that to instant, because you're going to make them angry, because they're going to get 15 emails from you the first day, probably, because things are hitting that really quickly. So I'd either rein in the criteria a little bit, maybe the search range is really large, or just change it to daily. And hopefully that kind of makes sense. Any questions about that, about why we do that? Remember, again, the whole point of the qualify process is to get a response so we can start a two-way conversation with them, right? And so the drip takes over and begins to do that after it. Juan, thanks for joining us. With the qualified drip, remember and this says, qualify leads for at least 21 days. We're close to that. We're not quite at 21 now, but we basically have a 3-day rotation of call, text, email. The text and the emails are automated, right? We know that because the system allows us to do that. The great thing about Boomtown. The calls you have to make though. And if you're not staying caught up on your to-dos, you're not going to make those calls on the day that the calls are supposed to be made. Then they're getting double contacted on a day and it messes up the plan. So it's really important that you stay current with your to-dos, right? Any questions about the qualify? So we talked about that path, right? We really are going to go 2 ways from a new qualify. We haven't been able to reach them, or what? One of these other categories, because we do reach them and we do have a conversation with them. So let's just talk a little bit about what these look like. They're out of order if you read left to right on this document a little bit, but nurture. These are leads that are 3 to 6 months out. Most of our folks that we contact are probably going to be in the nurture category. And that's good. And they might even tell you that, and we hope that they do. And you need to normalize that right away. A lot of folks say, well, it's too early, I'm too far out. Well, in our experience, how long do we work with leads before they become ready to buy, Stephanie?
6 months to a year.
I mean, on average, how many people have we helped that are that far out? A lot, right? And that's because we are working with a lot of people. We're having the opportunity to talk to a lot of them because of the way we're set up. But it's also because we're focused on being there for them and meeting them in their time frame and not ours, and building this pipeline of business, right? We're not just waiting for the low-hanging fruit. Those are great, but that's not how we're focused on building our business, right? So for the nurtures, and we'll get to handling these a little bit more in our next slide, but just understanding they're about 3 to 6 months out. There are some reasons that are probably preventing them from being ready right now. And you can see some of them listed there, like they're waiting for a lease to expire, they're relocating, something about work or family, maybe they're waiting for the school year to end, something like that. So always good to be talking to them and checking in with them to make sure that we're still on track. Still recommend having a strategy session as soon as you can with these folks, because the sooner you meet them, the sooner you're a person to them, and you're not just a face on the other, or on an email, or a voice on the other end of an email or the phone. They can see you as a real person. I had a consult yesterday. They're not going to be ready until the new year. That's fine. We've made contact, and at least I have face-to-face now, right? The next category, which is a little bit further out, are long-term prospects. We put them in watch, okay? You'll hear just looking for now. You're going to have the most people in this category, probably. And the categories will tighten up as they move through, because not everyone is going to ultimately buy, right? But we need to make sure they're in the right category so we know what conversations to have with them. You're still going to want to have both nurture and watch on e-alerts. So make sure you still talk to them about their specific criteria. And for your watches, you might put them on weekly instead of daily. For your nurtures, you definitely probably aren't going to want on instantly. You want on daily. For other categories, I like to use instant, just to either get a response or because they're in hot and they're ready now. For your watches, you're still going to be making contact with them. You're not just going to say, okay, you said you're going to be ready in March, I'll call you in March. If you wait to call them in March, they will have talked to someone else by then. I guarantee it, 9 times out of 10. And who loves that phone call? Hey, I'm calling because you said you were going to be ready in March. Well, it's the end of February. Well, what happened, Nate? Give me an example.
We bought a house in December.
Right. We bought a house in December because what? Something changed. Got the job earlier. We saw one we really liked and we called the listing agent and they showed it to us and we bought the house. You still have to stay in contact even if they're not ready now, right? And why would they wait around for you to call them in March if something happens, if they haven't heard from you? So stay in contact with people. Go ahead, Nate.
I said, or they might not even remember your name.
That's right. despite the e-alerts and all that, you still have to talk to them, and you can talk about things other than real estate, right? Make
If
sure you
I
get the motivation of why they're moving. Go ahead, Stephanie.
good conversation with someone with Watch, I always try to find them on Facebook and friend them, just because it's a natural way to stay in touch. You can like their post. If you see it's their daughter's birthday, you can say happy birthday on it.
Yeah, I like to do things like if I have a conversation with somebody, like I can think of one guy right now, I know he's big into golf. So like if I see something, and I don't really follow golf as much as I used to, but if I see something in the news that's, golf related, I'll text them on it, just be like, hey, did you hear about, freaking live golf league or whatever? And just little conversations like that, keep the rapport going.
Absolutely. I think that's a great idea. This is what I will do this as well with folks that I feel like I'm actually going to work with. I'll put them in my phone and I'll save them as like, job. I'll put buyer in that line, so I remember who they are, because at this point and after 8 years, I've got God knows how many names in my phone book or my contact list. And when you do that, it will also, if you've got it syncing with your Facebook, it will recommend friends sometime. And that's sometimes a way to connect with folks that you don't find otherwise. And just a reminder too. And not only that, if you get them to save yours, ideally the same thing will happen. I'll wrap up phone calls with, hey, go ahead and save my phone number, spell my name out for them so they know it, and save it right now, right? I've also, will send my contact card to people, text them after the wrap up of the phone call, just so they can click on it and save it right to their phone book. Any other ideas about Watch? Miriam, Christian, any questions? Juan, we're glad you joined us. Feel free to chime in if you got anything to contribute. We love to hear voices outside the team.
Well, I'm here. I'm learning from you guys and listening, and hopefully I will have some questions later on.
Okay, fantastic.
Doug, I would just say for the Watch people, make sure you're taking notes and updating those notes every single time, just like you would anybody else. But it's particularly important for Watch because they're not front of mind. You're not going to be calling most of them every other week or sometimes even a month. So just make sure you're taking good notes so that you have non-real estate things, especially non-real estate things, to reference to people to develop that relationship. Just like what Nate was saying about golf, that's a great example of a reason to call someone and check in with them, when you know full well that their lease is not up for another 9 months and they're not really seriously ready to go for a variety of reasons.
Excellent point. Thank you for adding that. Now, the one that we hope we all get them into, the hot category. And this is for folks that are ideal ready in the next 90 days. So now to 90 days, they're ready. 3 months, right? Before putting someone in hot, we should basically have all the answers to LP Mammal, right? We know everything about what they're looking for: location, price, whether or not they have another agent. What else?
I usually don't put them in hot until they're pre-approved.
That's good. We need to know the mortgage piece too. That's in there 100%.
I agree with that. They're not hot unless you've met them either in person and done a consult, with very few extenuating circumstances, such as, I'm flying into town this weekend. They've sent you their pre-approval letter and they've got 48 hours to find a house. With very rare exceptions, should anyone be hot unless you've met with them for a strategy session.
I would say that definitely the agency agreement thing, to what Brandon's point was, and it's specifically at the coast, although it's happened here too. I know those guys down at the coast often work with military guys and girls relocating from overseas that they maybe don't even meet until sometime after closing. But to that point, yes, you should have been in front of them or gotten that agency agreement signed. And remember, even if you've got somebody coming from, Baltimore or Sri Lanka or, Washington State, you can still have a Zoom strategy session with them. Get in front of them that way. Don't just use the excuse that they're not in town not to find some sort of way to do a quick face-to-face. Show them that you want to get in front of them. So these leads should have already signed a buyer agreement. Do not use smart drips with your HOTS. You should not be dripping your HOTS. because they shouldn't be getting feeler questions, because you should already have all those questions answered. What they should be on, and this is what I highly recommend, is an instant e-alert that is very much tailored to exactly what they're looking for or just outside of it. And also you should be copied on those e-alerts. And this is the way I've always done it since I first started. I would copy myself to make sure I'm seeing what's going out to them. And then if I saw one in that I thought would be a home run for them, I'm going to open it on the browser on my phone. I'm going to copy the URL for that specific property. And I'm going to text it to them. Hey, I know you're probably at work. Have you seen this one yet? Don't just rely on the e-alert to do the job for you. It's not going to hurt for them to see it twice. You know, several times I've got, yeah, we just saw that. We do want to go see it. But make sure that you're showing the value and doing the work too. Don't just set up the e-alert for your hot people that you know that are ready, that have signed a buyer agency agreement, that you have proof of funds or approval letter, and say, all right, well, let me know when you see one you want to buy. You know, provide the value, have the ongoing conversation with them. Because you can send them things and they're going to be like, yeah, and you're going to want to run and book it immediately, or they're going to be like, no, and then that might help you refine their search even further. Or it might help you prevent showing a home later on that you know that they're not interested in because they told you something about this other house that maybe another house has. How many times have we done that, right? You go show a house to somebody and it has a sunroom and they're like, I absolutely do not want a sunroom. Well, then why are we here? Well, did you take the time to notice that there was a sunroom? Maybe they missed it and point it out to them, or at least have the conversation with them. Hey, you know, last house you said you don't like sunrooms. This one has one. Something different about this one? Well, yeah, actually, my wife said she wants a sunroom and we're getting a sunroom regardless of what I think. Any of those things, right? I think it's really helpful to copy yourself on those e-alerts when you get people to hot for that reason. Because I learned long ago, I asked a coworker and I was like, how are you closing? How are you doing this? How are you doing this? And basically she told me, when I get people to hot, I make sure that they get what they are trying to get. I stay on top of them. I provide even more value at that point than I do with the run up to it, because these are the people who have showed you that they're willing to do the work and they are ready to make a decision. So you have to give them total attention and be hyper focused on putting things in front of them that make sense for what they're looking for. Make sense? All right, archive. Miriam asked me about this yesterday. How does this work? So archive is where people in qualify are going to go automatically if they go through the qualified drip and we never have any two-way conversation. So we continue to call and we don't log a call that we have a conversation with them, or they never respond to a text, or they never respond to an email. Our archive drips now are all automated. They don't have any additional manual reach outs for us, but it is just a little bit further protracted to bring people maybe out of their shell, right? You don't have to do anything to do this. It will do this automatically, right? From qualified to archive. The good thing is about any of these leads is when you're prospecting, and this will be a future session based on prospecting, make sure that you have your settings right so you can still see your archive show up in your now and your conversations on the right side of your lead central, because you might not have a to-do for these folks anymore, but if they're still actively on the website, they could be worth a call. If you see them calculating mortgages, if you see them looking at a property from different locations, if you see them sharing a property with somebody else, that still warrants a call. We've all, who have been doing this for a while, closed someone who we didn't talk to. They were on our website for months, maybe even years, and they were in archive and they became active. And we reached out and had a conversation, or they reached out to us. So don't neglect them just because you hadn't had a chance to talk to them yet. Pay attention to what they're doing on the website and reach out as needed. Pending, yay, we're under contract, right? Really simple about pending. You're going to move them into this when you get all the docs executed. This starts an automatic drip on our team, and it's just a one-step drip. It's an email with April's information and her short bio video. Chances are they're never going to meet April, right? Our closing manager. but at least they're able to put a face with her name. They're able to hear her voice a little bit and just feel like they know her, you know, just to give them a little bit of inside information. And it just kind of introduces them to what she's going to do for them. Okay. And I think that's really helpful. Closed. All right, we're closed. After you'll have your transaction in Boomtown. You're going to go in and close it after the transaction is over with. Make sure all the details are correct. And then it's going to prompt you to move the lead to closed, or you can move it to closed manually. Now, we have another drip that is available for our closed clients. Actually, two. There's a closed drip that starts automatically, and that is a reminder for you to close the drip out completely in Boomtown, to send a review email, and a reminder to start the closed drip if this is a client you want to stay in contact with. You know, we've all had transactions that have gone sideways, and for one reason or another, we know that this isn't probably a relationship that's going to go beyond this. And that's 1 out of 100, right? So for the other 99, we've got this closed drip, and it reminds you to check on them. Hey, how's the move going? Hey, you've been in the house for 3 months. Hey, you've been in the house for 6 months. Hey, we're coming up on a year. If it's new construction, you might want to order that inspection right at the 11-month part. And just to check in on their anniversary. It's actually set up out to like 5 years, at least for their anniversaries for us. It's just a reminder. Hopefully you're staying in touch, and we're going to do touches throughout the year for all of our closed clients. But it's always great to celebrate that anniversary. And I have always really relied heavily on social media on this, because I'll do a social media post right around their closing date. And I love to just screenshot that and send it to them. And people always have a really good reaction. I was like, oh, look how the kids have grown because they're in the picture. Or, man, I can't believe it's been 4 years already. Or you might get, you know, we need a bigger house because Becky's pregnant, or something like that. You never know. So stay in touch with your folks and have fun with it. And this is just another way to kind of help you do it. And then the last category is trash. Trash is bad information, bad phone number, and bad email. If you've got one that you don't think is bad, they're not ready for trash until you confirm that they're both bad, right? Now, we get bad phone numbers all the time. Boomtown has the verification in Lead Central, or on the lead when you look at it. So you can always check that and see if the names match or are similar. Sometimes they don't, and they're completely legit. So you still make the call. The emails, be sure to eyeball them, because a lot of time you'll get a letter left out of like Gmail. It'll be GMIAL or something like that. And you can go in and fix that really easily. Just edit. You can edit their email to make sure that Gmail is spelled correctly, or right, so it's a valid email address. So be sure you're always doing that before you set up drips and set up e-alerts. Just take a quick eyeball at those and make sure. But if you've got a bad phone number and a bad email address, or they straight up tell you, you know, pound sand, or I'm working with another agent, put them right in trash. That's fine. Now, just like with archive or any other lead, you can still see if they're active on the website. And depending on, you know, what they might have told you, you could reach back out to them. That's going to be a specific basis, though, based on, you know, how your communication with them goes. So just, again, like Brandon said, make sure you're entering good notes. One example of somebody you might trash that you might reach out to is, yeah, we've got an agent. Okay, well, when does your agency agreement expire? The end of November. Okay, well, if anything changes, give me a call. I'll be happy to help you. You know, you see them on the website in December, give them a call. Their agency agreement should have expired based on what they told you, and you're just checking in, right? But you're not interfering any further beyond that. If you call them and they say, well, we renewed our agency agreement. Okay, best of luck. Continue to use my site if you want to. Or they might say, yeah, we fired our agent. We didn't renew with them because we really weren't getting anywhere. Oh, come talk to me. Something like that. Any questions about these categories? All right. Now we're going to move over to the life cycle, kind of give you an idea of the time frame for these. So how does it look? Now, what does this look like in the middle?
The tree.
Right in the middle in the green. What does that look like?
A funnel?
A football field.
It's a funnel. It's a pipeline. Yes, Miriam. Trisha, give her a gold star. High five. Boom. Exactly. See how it funnels down. All right, that's fantastic. So some people are visual learners. So just seeing the different categories, maybe it doesn't always resonate as much. So with the life cycle, this is just a different way to visualize it, right? So let's start in the top left. New, right? They register on our website. We're not cold calling them. They gave us our information. So we're really excited and confident in calling them to provide some value, right? To help them achieve their goals, to start building that relationship, to show them why we as agents and our team are the best people to help them now that we've connected, right? You call them and you get them, we go to the pipeline. You call them and we don't get them, they go to qualify. You're going to continue to reach out and note the little drip. Note where the drips are on the key down at the bottom and which leads they really apply to. Okay. And that's basically what we use, right? We've got them on a qualified drip. So starting back with new, bad phone and email, over to trash and forget them, right? It's okay. It's going to happen. New, go to qualify. Continue to reach out, use the drip, use your own manual calls based on the drip. Drip plan completed, still not qualified, move to archive. Ours go auto. Again, we got rid of the manual touches because we were not keeping up with our to-dos, right? We agreed to that as a team, but we're still touching them. We're still reaching out. We're still trying to provide value. We're still trying to get a response. From your qualify or your archive drips, if you get a response, fantastic. We'll be able to move them into the pipeline if they have a time frame, just like from new. And like we talked about before, we talk to them, we get some information, we know what their time frame is, we put them in the appropriate category. Watch 6 months or more, nurture 3 to 6 months, hot 90 days or less, right? Once we get them under contract, we move them into pending and then closed, and we've got the drip again for our closed folks so we can stay in touch with them, nurture them, use them as a referral source, hopefully, right? Now they're one of our cheerleaders because they've had this great experience with us. They're going to send us their friends and their family, and they're going to come back to us when they're ready to make their next move, as long as we stay in touch with them, right? We don't just treat them like a transaction and forget about it. We treat it like the relationship that it's supposed to be. Any questions? That's the life cycle. Miriam, Christian, you got this down? You can spit it back out word for word. Of course, you've already got it printed. Fantastic.
Yes, Miriam does.
Well, of course she does, because she loves printouts, and I love Miriam for that. This is straight out of the Boomtown training. It's in our onboarding, so I know that you guys just saw this recently, but I think it's good. It's a good reminder for everyone. And honestly, and Juan, I don't know what system you guys use, but this applies to really anyone with a CRM. The words might be different, the labels might be different, the process might be a little bit different, but any funnel is going to operate similar to this. The big thing about the funnel is it doesn't operate correctly if you don't do the work and put people into the right places, enter the right notes so you're following up appropriately and having meaningful conversations when you follow up, and make sure that you're following up on time and staying caught up on your to-dos in your system. If you build the system the right way, if you enter the notes and the to-dos the right way, you will never have to think about what you need to do that day as far as prospecting goes, because it will be right there for you each and every day. And all you have to do is go in it and follow the plan. And that's about as good as it gets. You just show up and do it. But you have to put the stuff in the right way to get the right outcome, so you know what to do with it. Thoughts, questions, anything else to add? That's all I've got. We're going to continue to talk about this a little bit more in a different way, but we're trying to approach this from all angles, so we've got a good refresh of this. because it's so important that you're putting people in the right way. Raise your hand if you know what your pipeline looks like right now, how many you've got in hot, how many you've got in nurture, how many you've got in watch.
I do.
How about hot?
3 people. 0.
Anybody else? Stephanie, Nate, how many of you guys have in hot right now?
Do you mean like in the system or in my head?
In your head.
Probably 6.
Okay, that's good.
Are we counting?
Go ahead, Nate.
Are we counting current listings?
Yeah, you can count listings. Yeah, because they're hots.
I don't know if they're really hot though.
That's different. Well, you can count it as a half. That's fair where we are right now. Very good point. Yeah, I think you should always have at least a number in your head of how many hots you have. And I think we're going to kind of revisit the hot sheet and actually tracking that a little bit better so you keep it in front of you. We'll be revisiting that. But you should always have a good idea of how many hots you have, because if you don't have an idea of how many hots you have, how are you going to achieve your monthly goal or your quarterly goal, or know if you're on track or you're not on track, right? If every month I put up on the board, my goal this month is 2 or 3, well then based on what we know our conversion is, you should have at minimum that many number of hots and probably 1 or 2 more, right? Just because sometimes people take a little bit longer, sometimes things happen, etc. So keep that in mind and make sure you're keeping those names in front of you. I've seen a lot of people do this, and it all comes down to how your brain works, right? A lot of people have little whiteboards on their desk that have all their hot leads there. So they literally have them right in front of them. So they're front of mind every day. I would keep, I like if you haven't seen my desktop, I have sticky notes on my desktop, like digital ones, not things actually stuck to my desktop, but to have my list of hot leads there. So every time I open my computer, it's right there in front of me and I see it. Keep those hot names in front of you so you don't forget. And ideally you're not, because you're copied on an e-alert and all that anyways, but still. What'd you say, Stephanie?
I'll add something on top that I do, just because I do like to see it front of mind, and I definitely have that whiteboard in my office that I put their names on so I see them every day, is especially at this time of the year where we're getting to where we're thinking about building our pipeline for next year. I will, if I know I have someone who needs to buy next year, I have like 2023 and then I have their names written underneath it, just so, I mean, the CRM is obviously great, but if I have 100+ watches, but I know this person said they have orders for March, like they have to have a home, I'll go ahead and put their names up too, even though technically they're not in the 0 to 3 month range.
I think that's really smart. I would do something similar to that with my sticky notes. I would have like current year, next year, and then maybe right beside them put that month that we think it's happening, because they've told us what to kind of expect. And even people further out, like maybe I know they're 2 years out, but I know that I'm going to help them in 2 years, right? Just to keep that name front of mind. What I do want to make sure you're doing is when you're moving people to hot in Boomtown, or you're adding them to your hot list, make sure they're really hot. Make sure you understand that they are really hot, because sometimes in this business, people think that their pipeline is a lot more full than it is because they really haven't asked the questions. And then, you turn the spigot on and nothing comes out. So just be very careful and be very honest with yourself about that too. Really good point. I like that. I like keeping it front of mind. Guys, she's probably a good one to listen to. You might want to follow some of her suggestions. Anything else?
Yeah.
Well, I hope this was helpful for you guys. Keep your pipeline front of mind. Make sure that you're managing it, you're putting them in the right places, and you're following up accordingly. And when you said you were going to follow up, because we don't want to follow up. We got behind on our to-dos and we called a month later than we were supposed to call somebody. And guess what? Well, we went to an open house and we loved it. that will happen to you. I guarantee it. It's going to feel like somebody kicked you in the side. So minimize it by, making sure you're setting good habits now and following up and staying caught up on those to-dos.
In the chat.
Awesome. All right, Juan, anything before we get out of here?
Hey, thank you very much. Thank you for the information. We're in South Florida and we use Boomtown and Mojo. And,
Okay.
Mojo, we do get a lot of aspired and for sale by owners. So that's our main source of business moving into Boomtown. So thank you for the information.
Absolutely. I hope we'll see you again. If you'll drop your contact info in our list, I'll add you to our update email so you know about future.
What do I find the list? What do I add mine?
Oh, just go to the chat box down at the bottom.
Okay.
All right, guys. Have a great day. Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Juan, how long have you been with KW in the business?
11 years.
Really? Okay. What were
Yep.
you doing previously?
I was a banker.
Okay.
And that's when I came from. I'm in South Florida, but I was a banker in Michigan, West Michigan, Grand Rapids.
What took you to Florida?
I got divorced, so it was Michigan was too small for the two of us.
Understood completely. All right, Juan at Santos RE Group, right? How many folks do you have working with you?
We went from 5 agents, we are down to 2. And by everything that we do, we have ISAs, a team of ISA and admin. And so we concentrate on people and everything else is done by someone else. Gotcha.
Okay. Do you go to Unite regularly?
Yes.
Oh, fantastic. Okay. I try to get down there as well. So maybe if you're there this year, we can link up.
Oh, definitely. My pleasure.
Fantastic. All right. I'll add you to our distribution list and I hope we'll see you again and bring your team. We love to just talk to folks in different areas and get different input and, just explore the business together.
Definitely. I have you on my calendar for the next time.
Thank you. Juan, have a great day. Nice to meet you.
You too. My pleasure.